Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lucas Tyndale Live. Another exciting day, another exciting episode. I'm excited to have a special guest here today. This is going to be an exciting conversation that's really going to touch on a lot of things that are going on in our country with so many individuals around addiction. We're going to also talk about how one person overcame against the odds. He overcame addiction, and he's going to share that story with you. For those of you who are watching live right now on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, or LinkedIn, thank you for being here today. If you're watching this by replay, stay tuned. You're not going to regret it. This is going to be a great show today with Mr. Markus McFolling. I will bring him on in just a second. Again, we want to give you guys some time. Also, you may be listening to this via podcast. This will be a podcast soon. So if you're listening to this via podcast, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you. Please subscribe to this podcast. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Continue to follow this journey. We're going to continue to bring you great content on Lucas Tyndale Live, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So thank you guys again for being here today. And as we get started today, I want to share with you guys a story of a young man that I had the opportunity of working with. This young man overcame odds as well, and I thought it was fitting to talk about him today as we're going to be interviewing someone who overcame great odds. So this young man actually was on the Ellen Show, and he also has a special on Netflix, and he's a local kid. He's from Massillon, Ohio, and he is just an incredible person. I had the opportunity of working with him through a foster youth program that I've worked with for many years, doing independent living training, and I'm really excited to share with you guys today a little bit about a friend of mine, a young man, again, that I think will be very inspirational to you guys. I'm going to show you guys this clip as we get started. As people enter the room, thank you guys who are joining. Please like and share this broadcast so others can come in. And as people come in, let's watch this clip of my good friend here.
Our next guest is going to blow you away. He was born without legs due to a rare condition that affects his spine, but that has not stopped him from becoming a college wrestler and an inspiration to everyone who meets him. From Massillon, Ohio, please welcome Zion Clark and his mom, Kimberly. Hi. Well, oh boy, you're something else. And man, you're strong. I just hugged you, and you're like solid. Okay, so what was this condition what do you call the condition that you were born with?
It is called caudal regression syndrome. It is a very rare condition. Only one kid out of 100,000 each year are born with it. Mm-hmm. And it's very rare. There's different stages to it. Some kids are born with like a big portion of their spine missing or a small portion. Some are born with legs, this portion missing or not. I was just born without legs. Still, it's like, a lot of people say it's different, but it's really just like only thing I know.
Right, of course, that's all you know. And it probably, because of this, you had a tough time before you were even born.
Yeah, so my mother, she's really not the greatest, but nothing to be helped. She was diabetic and also was doing heavy drugs while she was pregnant with me, in and out of jail. Actually got pregnant with me while she was in jail. Had me, and she was deemed unfit to take care of me, so I went to my first couple homes. And like the first couple homes, they weren't bad. Just a couple bad things happened, so I had to like be removed. But then there was other homes where like it would get to the point where I'd be like sometimes beaten, starved, just a lot of bad things. But I swear, by God's grace, my mom got a hold of me, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you guys and talk to you guys about this young man who overcame those odds. And what he was able to do, I think, was spectacular. His mother was addicted to drugs, and that led him to having the disability that he did have, but he overcame that. Today, I have a great guest today that had an issue with drugs, but he overcame that to be the man that he is today, to be able to take care of his family, to be able to lead others to faith in Christ. And I'm so excited to welcome my guest today, Mr. Markus McFolling. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, what's going on, my man? How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Good,
great.
Man. Thanks for having me. Everybody out there who's watching us live, thank you guys. We really appreciate it. Marcus was really excited to come on the show. When I asked him to come on, he didn't hesitate. He has a story to tell, and I just want you guys to know how important this is. I'd like you guys to share this with your audience, with your followers. Allow your children to come into the room to hear this story, to learn about this. This is important. Oftentimes, we hear about people who had an issue with drugs, and all you know is that sad story. All you know is they're still struggling. All you know is they keep relapsing. This is somebody who overcame, and he's an inspiration to so many people. Marcus, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about maybe young Marcus. I believe you grew up in California. Give us a
Yes,
little bit
sir.
of your background.
Yeah, shout out to all my friends from Seaside, California, if you guys see this. So born and raised in California. And so a lot of people, unfortunately, can tell me my story. It's your typical athlete story. You got a guy that's gifted in athletics, but he's born into a difficult situation where my birth father wasn't there when I grew up. But I was fortunate enough to have a stepdad, but he was really sick. So, I had to choose what was going to be the thing that I looked up to. So where I grew up, either you're selling dope, either you're a rapper, or you're playing ball. And for me, playing ball was the most important thing. It was the one thing that I could play where I can hit people and not get in trouble for it. So I
That was
loved
always
it.
fun.
Yeah, I could like take my anger out on people. And I was socially awkward, man. I didn't necessarily understand how to hold a conversation with people. That's just from a variety of reasons. And growing up in the inner city, oftentimes there would be a lot of gang violence and things like that. So I was somewhat sheltered. My mom was kind of overprotective of her boys, but on the football field, man, that's where I was the most free. And I got a chance to just play the game, and I excelled. But I didn't have a lot of discipline in the home. So back in 2003, 2004, if you were really good at sports, it opened up a lot of opportunities for you where you didn't have to have the best grades.
Right.
So high school for me was literally going to school, getting on MySpace, having lunch brought to me, and going to practice.
You said getting on MySpace?
Yeah, people are like, whoa.
From a time capsule? What is that?
Yeah, man. Yep. So MySpace was my thing, man. And, he's at my top 8 on point. And
Okay.
it just.
It's a social media platform for those that don't know. Before Facebook, there was this thing called MySpace. And you don't need to know. Check it out in your history books, kids.
Yeah. It was basically like going to school and getting on Facebook. And, that's what I did for a few years. Got a lot of scholarship offers, big Division I schools. I commit to University of Arizona. I'm pumped. I'm excited to go and play ball. But there's this thing called graduation. Yeah. And up to that point, nobody had ever told me that I had to get good grades in order to graduate. It was always, hey, Marcus, you're good. We're going to pass you, until graduation day came and I didn't graduate from high school. So I continued to persevere because I had this mentality that nobody's going to stop me. Mm-hmm. And there was a man by the name of Mr. Killow, and I'll never forget this. This was June 2005. He told me this. He says, Marcus, everything that had just happened, I didn't graduate from school, everything leading up to this point, you just imagine a young kid. I was all on the paper and everybody said, where's Marcus going to go? Where's he going to sign? Mm-hmm. And I remember at my lowest moment, he says, Marcus, I believe in you. You're going to make something of yourself someday.
Wow.
And for some reason, I believed him. And that thought, I want us to remember that thought because it would help me in some of the most difficult times of my life when I was literally fighting for my life. And so I get a chance to go to JUCO, went to junior college, excelled there. But again, if you don't know how to study,
right,
teachers don't care how good you are at sports.
Right.
Like, that's just the reality, but I didn't get it. So I got a chance to go back to our hometown JUCO. Played there, did well. Then here's the most arrogant thing I've ever done. So for the athletes that are watching, they may understand this. Mm-hmm. So my friend shows me this college. This is 2008 now. I'm 2 years into JUCO. My friend shows me this college, and it's called Malone College. Mm-hmm. This was my first God moment.
No, wait. Where were you? You were living in California at the time?
I was living in Monterey, California.
You didn't know anything about Canton, Ohio?
I never heard of Ohio.
Oh, never heard of Ohio.
What is Ohio? Where's that?
What country is that in?
I'm like, what is that? Like, is that like, where is that at? Is it in America?
Right.
So he shows me this website, and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to go to that school. So here's how arrogant I was. I get the coach's number from my friend. I'm like, yo, hey, what's going on, Coach Gardner? This is Marcus. You don't know who I am, but if you offer me a scholarship, it'd be the best scholarship he ever offered. I kid you not. Literally 2 weeks later, I'm out here on a scholarship to play football.
So, wait. You recruited yourself,
I
and it
recruited
worked.
myself to Malone, literally by a phone call. Had no film, no nothing. I was like, "Hey, listen,
What? What?
coach."
What? So he had to have seen you do something
Well,
at
yeah,
some point,
back then
right?
I think it was probably you can Google or Scout.com and check out my recruiting
Okay.
profile, and like I was, pretty good recruit. So I didn't know where Malone was, didn't know what division it was, but I'm like, well,
Right.
time to go to Canton, Ohio. I'll tell
Right.
you
Here we
what,
go. They were like,
cold
it's the
first
Hall of Fame
shot.
city, right?
It,
They were like,
well, and that's what
football
they told
started
me.
there,
Like,
right?
I'm not gonna lie for anybody from Malone that may be seeing this. Like, all right, there was this guy in admissions, and he told me, "Hey, Marcus, like we play at Fawcett Stadium," and he showed me a
It's a
picture of
big deal.
Fawcett, and I'm like, small school sell it out like that. I was sold, right? Like
Right.
as those who are from Canton know,
Yep.
that wasn't the reality. It was the Hall of Fame game, but I loved it. Got a chance to just play there, man, and just that's when I began to learn something about education that I didn't know. But
Hmm.
still, my mentality, my identity is rooted in football. It's all about getting out of the hood, making
Right.
sure that I can make it because my family's depending on me.
And when you say make it, you were thinking NFL,
Oh,
high school.
absolutely. Oh,
Okay.
I mean, from middle school, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to the league. I'm going to the league. Nobody's going to stop me.
Hmm.
And God had gifted me with size and speed, to be 225 pounds in high school running a 4.4. I
Wow.
mean,
That's not heavy.
that's a big back. And, a lot of scholarships came my way, but I'm at Malone and I began to, one, I realized that it was a small school
Hmm.
and I was bigger than most of my linemen. So, uh, I'm
That's
not
kind of
I'm not
tough.
worried I'm not worried about a 220-pound linebacker, right?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ball, I'm gonna do what I gotta do, I'm gonna get noticed by scouts. And that's exactly what I did, man. I played my butt off, got a chance to, I did really well my senior year. And, they had this combine. So there's the NFL combine, and then they had another combine, which was like one double A guys and a few different D1 guys. And I had to go down to Ohio State in 2011 and perform where, this is Terrell Pryor. All these guys are down there killing it. And if I did well in this workout, they would invite me to the national combine at Lucas Oil Stadium. And so, man, I put on a show. The Dallas Cowboys at that combine moved me to fullback. And so, I mean, you're performing in front of the top scouts in the world. I'm pumped. Well, I get invited to the national combine, man, where I'm working in front of all 32 NFL teams, man. And, my dreams were becoming true right before my eyes.
Hmm.
But I ask kids a question all the time. What do you do when adversity strikes?
Yeah.
Like, what's your foundation? And if your foundation's not where it needs to be when the storms come, you're only as
Leave it
good as
alone.
your last win. And
Absolutely.
so the 2011 draft happened. I didn't get picked up. Now, this was the year of the NFL lockout. So for a
Yep.
small college guy, it was a
Devastating.
rough time to come out.
Yep.
So I got a chance to play in the Arena Football League for a few years. And that's when
What was
kind of
that like?
everything.
Was that exciting? I mean, most people most people dream of going to the NFL,
Mm-hmm,
and after that, they're playing Madden, right?
mm-hmm.
So they don't. A lot of guys never play professionally at all.
Sure.
Was it still just disappointing because you had so much higher aspirations, or was
Well,
it
when
like
you're
still good, or what?
in a situation like that, so I was in San Antonio. I was playing for the San Antonio Talons, and San Antonio didn't have an NFL team. So we
Okay.
were like the NFL team of the city. We're playing in the Alamo Dome, seats 70,000.
Wow.
We didn't get nearly that many fans,
I had
but
7,000. It's okay.
I mean about 10.
Okay.
About
Okay.
10,000.
7 to 10 is cool.
Okay.
Hey, whatever. It's
So
good.
it was cool to be in the environment where I'm actually getting paid to play the game
Right.
that I love. I don't
Okay.
have to work another job. I don't have to work, I don't have
Yeah.
to do anything but other than play football, work out. And it was fun. But when you get to that level and you start getting paid, there's different
Yeah.
requirements. And it's like the fun was gone. But I still was like, all right, NFL, I gotta get to the league. I've got to be able to take care of my family. I met my wife in college, so we're dating at the time we get engaged, and I'm like, okay, well, I have to take care of my family,
Hmm.
and football is the way that I'm going to do it because that's the only thing I knew. Didn't think I was good at anything else. Well, I had a workout, and there were some NFL scouts at our practice, and unfortunately, in this workout, man, I blew my shoulder out,
Wow.
and that's the first time in my life, first time I'd ever had that serious of an injury,
Hmm.
and I was prescribed pain medication. Now, anytime you have a shoulder injury, as bad as mine, I tore my rotator cuff, I tore my labrum. They did extensive surgery.
Wow.
But anytime you give someone a fentanyl patch, you give them instant release oxycodone and you give them extended release morphine, you're going to create a drug addict.
Wow.
You were literally.
You'd make that statement definitively. Anytime they give that to anyone, they're going to create a drug addict.
Absolutely. Especially with my history. I had no, prior drug use whatsoever. Having 3 different powerful narcotics in your system is the recipe to create a drug addict.
Wow.
Because the reality is this: no one wakes up and says, hey, I want to be a drug addict. I literally was taking the medication because it was given to me by my doctor. So with my name being on a pill bottle, I was like, oh, well, of course I have to take it. Like, right. I'm in pain. This is what they give you when you're in pain. And my mentality was, I'm getting back to football.
Yep.
But unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Wow.
And I went down a different path.
So, and I want you to continue this story.
Yeah.
You made a very strong statement, which I think we need to really take in, that they created a drug addict out of you. You were created in a lab. They created something that was supposed to help us. And there's been a lot of studies about human behavior and our ability or willingness to follow authority. And the fact that an authority figure tells us to do something, they tested to see, were people willing to do what an authority figure told them to do. A famous study was with electrocution, to see if someone would electrocute somebody on the other side of a wall or think they were electrocuting somebody on the other side of the wall because the authority figure who was observing the experiment was telling them to do so. And many people were willing to go as far as putting in enough jolts to kill the person on the other side of the wall because someone told them to do so. You were told by a doctor, take this patch, take this medication. It's going to help you get better faster. It's going to help you rehab, get through the pain. And you're telling us that right now in America, people are being prescribed drugs that are causing them to later become drug addicts.
They are literally giving people medication where they are not actually addressing the issue because there's so many alternatives to pain management. Like, I'm living proof. Somebody that had a career-ending injury, there are so many other alternatives. But what's happening is it's just easier for a doctor to write a script and give a patient what they want.
Sure.
And so I would say my specific instance, I was psychologically depressed because my identity was shook and I had nothing else. Well, then physically, I became dependent on the drugs really quickly. And those two, that created a completely deceived drug addict where I didn't even know who I was anymore.
Wow. So since middle school, you had aspirations of becoming an NFL star.
Absolutely.
You excel middle school, high school. You're big back. You're fast. 225 running a 4.4 is amazing. We've seen some like that come out of Canton McKinley. I must say we've had some of those guys come out. We had Jamar Martin was a guy who played for Canton McKinley in the late 90s on the national championship team.
Nice.
He ended up going to Ohio State, moving to fullback, and then going to the Dallas Cowboys. But I believe an injury shortened his career as well. But you saw yourself on this road. You get to the combine. You blow your shoulder out at the combine, at the job interview. You blow your shoulder out.
Oh, yeah.
You still believe you're going to come back and maybe make it back down that road.
Yeah.
You get this drug. Now, you're on this drug for how long?
I took opiate pain medication for 1,077 days.
Wow.
About 3 years. Completely deceived. And so for me, like, being in a place where just the regulations down in Texas are a lot different than they are anywhere else, it was easy for me to get what I needed. All I had to do was make a phone call. And this was, at this time, they hadn't had all the strict, with Schedule II drugs. So I could say, hey, my show, I'm feeling this kind of way. And what happened was, and here's just the truth, I have lifetime insurance through the Arena Football League. And so that insurance is really good insurance where they could literally try any drug they want on me. And so they were giving me the craziest stuff. And I could just remember having that fentanyl patch on my chest. And I got to a place where we're living in Texas and I'm rehabbing and I just couldn't breathe. I'm like, Chelsea, this is weird. Like I can barely breathe. And I can remember calling the CDC because I thought my doctor was trying to kill me. I'm like, what? My breath was shallow and I ended up giving them back the fentanyl patch and I just stayed on the the oxycodone. But I mean, at that point, I was too far gone, and I wasn't doing anything crazy. I was literally taking it as prescribed.
Wow.
I would take it as the doctor prescribed it. I just took it for too long.
This is a big lesson for all of us. I don't think Marcus is saying don't follow doctor's orders,
Yeah.
but I believe he is saying we have to ask some questions.
Yeah.
Parents out there who are watching, even some of the things they prescribe to our children, to our young people,
Absolutely.
some of the things that they're prescribing to us, we really have to ask ourselves, is this what's best for me? Is this the right dosage? We also have a great opportunity to do some research ourselves. Now, I'm not saying everything you find out on the internet is good information, but there are reputable sites where you can do a little research for yourself and try to become more aware. And I just think it's so important for all of us to take our own lives into our own hands before we become a victim of a system that it's complicated. Okay, I'm not going to throw out conspiracies, but it's just a complicated system. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot going on, and we have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our children. We have to protect our families. We have to protect our communities, and that's why I love so much what you're doing, Marcus, because you're not the only one. Number one, you're not the only person who was a drug addict.
Yeah.
Right. So Marcus, and I wanted to say that today. I thought it was important. I thought about it. I thought you're one of the kindest people I've ever met, but you were a drug addict, Marcus.
Yeah.
Right.
I was a fiend, man. Like, honestly,
you were a fiend. Like,
when we think of people, when we think of people on the movies and stuff, like towards the end of my addiction, it got like that. It was bad.
Wow.
Like, I completely imploded.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a big deal because I grew up where I grew up in inner city. We had drug addicts, right? And it kept the economy of the hood going because there were people addicted to drugs. And, you know, we saw those people, we never thought they'd be off drugs. And many of them died as drug addicts, you know? And it was like, oh, they're a drug addict. Oh, they're a fiend. Oh, they're whatever, you know what I mean? And we didn't have any respect for them. They're strung out, not realizing that there's a story behind every addict.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
And
I say this all the time, man. Like, everyone who's ever struggled with drug addiction, no one says, hey, I want to be a drug addict. Like, I want to be a drug addict when I grow up, and I want to hurt everybody near to me, and I want to lose my family and lose everything and be sitting in a cell. Right. No one says that.
Right.
But that was my reality. So how do you cope with something like that? Yeah. Like, and that's why my message and what I love doing, I'm so passionate about it, because I lived it. Yeah. Like, I lived it, and I want to be able to give hope to people that, man, listen, there's a God who loves you. But yeah, man.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So now, okay, so to put this story together again, okay, arena football. So you met your wife while you were playing arena football in San Antonio. Okay?
So I met my wife right before I signed my contract. So this is go back to 2011. I didn't get drafted. I'm training in Texas. I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to focus. I know a call is going to come. We thought the Oakland Raiders were going to bring me out as a tight end, but they ended up not pulling the trigger. So I come back to Ohio. I'm like, well, all right, NFL season's going on. I'm not staying in California. I'm not staying out here. I'm going back to Canton. I'm going to find a job.
Wait. Hold on. Did you hear that, Canton people, Ohio people? Somebody from California chose us. He chose us. Okay. Most people in Ohio, we like, as soon as I can get out of here, I'm out. People can't stand where they're from, but you had a respect for it. This was the place for you.
This has become home to me. Like, it really has. And I knew that I needed to get back to a place where, one, I met this young lady. So yeah, I had to hit her with a little bit of game. That summer when I was training, she had broke up with her boyfriend. I broke up with the girl I was with, and I'm like, okay. She put something online saying that she broke up with him. I said, I'm praying for you. I just hit her with that. I'm like, yo, I'm praying for you. And then we developed a friendship, man. And when I moved back after the draft and going into the school year, we were inseparable. And so her and I, we dated for 3 years. She was with me, you know, the entire time, my support system. And so I'm playing football in Texas while she's finishing her last semester. And this is in 2014. I get the injury. She's with me. She's by my side. I'm going through rehab and everything. I moved to Houston to do my rehab because I'm like, okay, well, we're going to get married that August. We're going to figure out things together. We're going to move to Texas. I'm pursuing my dreams. Nothing's going to stop me. Nothing stopped me to this point. And she supported it. She got a great job as a nurse down at a hospital in Houston. And so we're doing well. I'm rehabbing. Like, I'm doing everything I got to do. I'm focusing on getting back to the field. But the injury was so bad I could never quite get past benching 135.
Wow.
You know, and then I just lost my will to fight. I'm like, okay, well, I'm on injured reserve. I'm getting paid to literally get high. So I did that for about 2 years. And so this is
now during those 2 years, were you conscious? I mean, at that point, were you like, man, I'm addicted to this? Or were you just like, oh, this is my prescription?
Well, I didn't know that I was addicted until I would try to stop taking it.
Wow.
So there'd be times where I would take it, I wouldn't take it. And then my wife and I, we set up some accountability. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, let's make sure that I'm taking it as prescribed, until it got to a point where it just kind of took over. And I would say about 1.5 years in, I was like, okay, I have a serious issue. I need to do something about it. And like one of the most unfortunate things about this is I can remember in my moment reaching out for help when I was in Texas. I had this instance where I called my best friend and I just kind of confessed for the first time to somebody, hey, I'm struggling. Like, this is hard. I'm at the point where I'm not just getting it from the doctors. I'm looking for other alternatives to get, medication. I'm looking on the streets, whatever I have to do, because I would take it as prescribed, but I would just keep taking it and keep taking it. So therefore, instead of taking a day's worth, I'm taking 2, 3, 4 days sometimes. And so when I was in my moment of need, I can remember calling the same doctors that were giving me the meds. And I said, hey, listen, I have a problem. I need help. And they dropped me as a patient. I was like really left. I was left to fend for myself. And so my wife gets pregnant. And so this is the first time in my life where I came face to face with reality. I need to do something. And the only thing that I could think of was, okay, I went to a Christian school. There's good people. All of my friends are pastors. I want to be the dad that I never had. So I'm going to go home to Ohio so I can be around people who are telling me who I am. And so I was like, okay, well, we're moving back to Ohio. We moved back January of 2017. But if you don't deal with your issues, they'll follow you everywhere you go.
Wow.
And that's exactly what happened to me. All those same issues, those same tendencies. I thought getting away from, the drugs would help. And what's crazy, anybody that's ever been in addiction, you isolate yourself. Now I'm in Texas by myself. Chelsea's working. She's doing amazing. She's got a great job, great friends. I had no friends. I was by myself. I bought a dog. I was by myself, and that's it. And I'm thinking that, okay, I'm going to overcome this. Like, man, I've gone through way too much in life. But then it hit me when she got pregnant. But where reality hit was when I tried to get off the medication, I started going through withdrawals. And that for 6 months spiraled me in a cycle of drug-seeking behavior, going to different doctors. I mean, I went to 38 different doctors for 59 prescriptions in 5 months.
Incredible. Okay, I want you to pause the story right there. Because I just want everybody to let that sink in, right? He has all the potential in the world. At a critical moment, things go wrong. The interview moment, the moment when it mattered most, the NFL Combine, things go terribly wrong. He's given something that is supposed to help him. It ends up hurting him more than it helps him. He makes a decision after some time of struggling with this that he's going to move back to Ohio, get to a place around people who he felt would support him and love him. And he found himself in the same place, mentally, emotionally, chemically addicted, just the same. I think it's so important for all of us to realize that. There's a saying, some people change jobs, mates, and friends, but never think of changing themselves. Some people change jobs, mates, and friends, but never think of changing themselves. Some people move from city to city, town to town, church to church, relationship to relationship, and they're looking for somebody to fill a void that I believe, and I know Marcus believes, can only be filled in one way. And I know he's going to share his journey there.
Oh, yeah.
We have to realize that I think humans are born with a void. I think we're born with a need for something greater than ourselves, greater than what our parents can even give that they can give us, greater than what society can give us, greater than what money can give us. And until we find that, we're always one step away from falling way down into a place where you went that so many people don't often go. So people on here right now are so grateful for your transparency. I just want to call out some of the people here. I want to thank everybody here today. If you've made comments, thank you for your comments. If you've shared this broadcast, thank you. There's still time. Please share this. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, LinkedIn, we are so glad to have you here today. To those who are making some comments, I just wanted to share a few of them with Marcus. We have Ebony Hill, who was a guest on our show a few days ago. She's the author of From How I Went from 45 and Single to 45 and Married. She's watching via Periscope. Thank you for being here. Tyler Thatcher has been he's a great young man, and now he's working with young men, and he's dating someone now and in a serious relationship. Tyler's actually going to come on the show for us one day. We have Andrea here, a good friend of mine who also lived in California and came back to Ohio. She gave you credit for that. I didn't even realize that. She said, I grew up here, went to Cali, and came back. Right now, I'm not liking Ohio so much. There were snowflakes today, but Marcus gets credit. So
yeah, man, that snow, boy, I tell you, every winter I want to move, but
it'll chase you away.
We're rooted.
Absolutely. We have Sarah Ray here. Her and her daughter Naya are both watching. Naya has heard your story. She loves
Naya,
hearing your
love
story.
Naya, man. Amazing
Naya
young
is
lady.
incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Naya Smith. She's a young lady. She's a senior at Kent McKinley. Her senior year has been disrupted, but if I know Naya, she's still working on a master plan. She's already committed to a university. And Naya, I would love to have you on the show. I know you could bring so much to people of all ages, especially speaking to young people. So thank you so much for being here. My friend Aaron, thank you for being here. Amanda Dukes, thank you so much. Again, everybody, Damon, thank you for being here. Renee, Chelsea, your wife is in the house.
What's up, girl?
Right. I think she loves you.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
supporting you.
Come on, somebody.
And she's in the
Ride
house.
or die right there.
Chelsea, we're glad to have you here today. To everybody who's watching the broadcast, thank you. We're going to continue on, Marcus. So you're telling us that all this has gone on and all this has gone wrong, and there was a turning point. There was something that shifted in your mind and your heart and your spirit where you knew something needed to change, and somehow you found that. Tell us about that.
So I think every person, you've got to get to a place where you come to the end of yourself. And like in my mind, everything about me wanted to change the addiction, but literally my body physically changed where my my brain receptors were no longer firing. I could not make a cognitive decision. And so I came home, I didn't deal with my issues. They began to follow me, and it led me down this cycle of just drug-seeking behavior. And God has gifted me with the ability to speak. So I'm manipulating doctors, getting prescriptions after prescriptions, all the way to the point where I got charged with 3 felonies. Deception to obtain a dangerous drug. And the fact that I could remember this day changed everything. June 16, 2017. Now, my wife was by my side. She was with me in it. She was fighting with me. But the Marcus that I had become, I was dangerous. She didn't know what I was going to do, if I was going to drive around and put my daughter's life in danger, which I would do oftentimes. I would go to different hospitals because she was working at Cleveland Clinic now, and I'm just at home, a drug addict at home. And so she had to do something. She mustered up the courage to call the police on me because I was like completely imploding. And it was June 16, 2017. And I'll never forget the day of watching the police pull in front of my house. And I can remember going outside holding my daughter. And I can remember giving my daughter to the police. And I can remember them for the first time in my life taking me away. And it didn't really hit me yet. Remember, I'm in active addiction. But I saw the brokenness on my wife's face, and I saw like how much I had hurt her. And so I'm sitting in a cell. And so like, imagine you're sitting in a cell. You just lost everything. Everything that you knew, everything that you loved is gone. What's the one thing that was going through my mind? Were the 12 pills that were in my house. That's how powerful addiction was. And I could remember, like, I walked home from Stark County, and then there was a young man who was in there, and he was an addict. But like, even in the midst of like my sin, in the midst of my brokenness, God was using me to speak life to people. But God wanted to speak life to me. And for 3 days, I contemplated killing myself because my wife had left me. I spent my first Father's Day in 2017 alone. And I'm like, all right, it's time to just go. But I held on for some reason, and I knew that God was going to do something with my life. So I checked myself into rehab. I'm like, all right, whatever I have to do, I'm going to finish this because I'm going to be that little girl's father, no matter how hard it is. And I get emotional talking about it because I'm telling you what God has done in my life. I didn't have to be perfect. All I had to do was be willing, and I just had to give him my yes. And I said, God, whatever you have for me to do, I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter. And so I checked myself into rehab, man, and it was in Youngstown. It was a faith-based program. And it was the most difficult year of my life. I was away from my family, away from my daughter, but I could only talk to them for 15 minutes a week. I could only see them for 3 hours a month on site. But the way that I explain it, it was the perfect greenhouse for growth. Like, what makes a greenhouse good? The right soil, the right environment. It is the optimal conditions for something to grow. And they literally took away television, they took away cell phones, they took away social media. And for 13 months, I literally read the Bible and I worked and I prayed. That's it. Incredible. And the way that God spoke to me in that year, I still got my prayer journal. I was reading it today. The things he spoke to me in this journal, I hold on to. And what's crazy is anybody that's listening, hear me when I say this, man. October 4th, 2017, I read a scripture that changed everything. I read Ephesians 1:6. Ephesians 1:6 says, by his glorious grace, I've made you accepted in the beloved. And for the first time in my life, I knew that I was good enough. I knew that I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to score touchdowns. I'm 29 years old in rehab. And I just break down because for the first time, it's like my father said, son, I love you. You're my beloved. And that's my new name. I picked up a new name. And boy, I say it like this, the devil should have killed me when he had me. I'm my father's business now, man. Anybody that knows me, man, I'm not playing. So
Marcus. First, let me thank you for your vulnerability, my friend. That's not easy. Number one, it is a difficult story to tell, and it's incredible that no matter how many times you tell that story, it's just that moving. It's just that serious. It's just that deep. It's just that life and death crossroads where you can see that your life could have ended, that everything you worked for you could have lost, that this wonderful woman that you made your wife and this beautiful child that had come into your life, you could have lost it all, and somehow you found the strength to come back in rehab. See, I appreciate your story because when I was young, when I was a teenager, my father was in prison, and prior to going to prison, my father knew the Lord, and he, we went to church and things, but he didn't really know God. He knew the God that was presented to him. He didn't know the God that wanted to be his friend. He didn't know the God that wanted to be his father. He didn't know the God that wanted to be his healer, his protector, his comforter. So while my father was in prison for 7 years, from 6.5 years, from the time I was 12 till I was 18, my father was in prison. He spent time in his word. He spent time reading his Bible. He got to know God, not as a religion, but as a relationship. And it changed his life. Can you speak to that a little bit about the relationship that you found? Because I think so many people are struggling with that.
Yeah, even so, there's a date that happened, and I've never read this to anybody, and I won't read it all. I'll paraphrase it. But August 1st, I was believing God for these crazy things. I'm in rehab. I'm isolated from the world. I'm like, God, I'm believing you for an outreach youth ministry that stretches all across the country. I literally wrote that down. I didn't do any kind of speaking. I said before that, God, and this is it's crazy. Write your dreams down. I said, God, I'm believing you for no court felonies. I said that in my prayer journal before I even went to court. But August 3rd, here's what we all come to this point. I had to get to this point where I didn't put anything before God. So I'm praying, I'm worshiping, we're in chapel. We had church every day. And there's a song being sung by Carrie Job. It's I Am Not Alone. And this is the first time I believe that Jesus encountered my life. He said, sacrifice your family to me. Didn't know how to do it. Remember, I at first went to rehab because I wanted to get my family back. I wanted to show my wife that I could change,
Yeah.
but I needed to be there more for more than just getting off of drugs. I needed to be there to get my life completely changed. And it started by not putting anything before Jesus. And so I remember crawling up to the altar. I wrote it down. The whole experience, I'm weeping like someone passed away. Somebody did pass away.
I was just thinking that somebody did pass away.
Give the old Marcus eulogy.
Whew.
And what I picked up that day has forever impacted me, because my God is my everything. That in my lowest moments, he's with me. And so I think understanding that the relationship aspect, like he's bigger than a concept. He's an intimate God. So he wants intimate followers that love him, that pursue him, not just go to church. And so for me, I got a chance to wake up early and go spend time with him. And he would speak to me and I would open up the word. You see, a lot of people say, I don't hear God. He wrote you a book. Like, begin to read the Bible. Listen, this book right here, the Bible's written in many different ways. It's metaphorically, metaphors, parabolically, it's written in parables, allegorically, it's written in allegories, but it's a spiritual book, so it needs to be spiritually discerned. My human mind can't comprehend this. It can't. So I began to just pray and wait, and he began to speak, and he began to tell me of things to come, and he began to tell me who I was through his word, and it empowers you. It's life-giving. The Bible in Hebrew says the word of God is alive and active. It really is. Like, I wish I could tell every person in the world, he is who he says he is, because check this out. I'm a very bold person. A lot of people know that about me. So I'm in rehab. I'm like doing my thing. I'm like clean. I'm sober. I'm thinking clearly. Everything's going great. Check this out. So I have these core felonies, and God is talking about me and a man of integrity. I'm like, Lord, that's me. I'm your guy. I speak too much, right? And so the Lord puts it on my heart. I need you to plead guilty. Hey, I don't care how tough you are. When the Lord speaks something like that, I'm like,
you like that? The devil? That devil is a lie, right? You like, devil, get off my shoulder. I'm not doing that.
I don't know about that one, God. I had a mentor in my life. One of the staff members there, Wayman, he was saying, obedience is better than sacrifice. He would always say that, and I'm like, all right. I buoyed myself up in my faith. I'm like, all right, I go to court. I'm like, you know what? Hey, judge, we don't even have to proceed with anything. I plead guilty to all charges. All right, first of all, I didn't say it like that. I was like,
okay. I like the dramatic. I like how you played it. That was real Law and Order. You're right. He's like, you can't handle the truth. You sit down. You sit down. Okay, but not like that. Okay.
And so I literally pled guilty. Check this out. This judge looks me in my face. Never had somebody be so honest in her courtroom. She says, you complete teen challenge and will act as if this never happened. To this day, I don't have a record whatsoever. And August or September, I don't know if you guys can see that, but what it says right there.
Yep, September 21st.
I'm believing God for no court felonies in Jesus' name. That date right there was when it was completed, and I was in rehab. I was in the program. But here's the thing: God wants my obedience. He wanted my obedience more than anything. It wasn't so much about, now what happens if the judge is like, all right, bet, you got a record. But I needed to be obedient to what God had called me to do, because he knew in my heart, he pre-wired me to work with young people. I can't be a felon and work with kids. So he made a way out of no way. Incredible. Before God tells you to do something, he always tells you who you are. God will always call you son. He will always call you daughter. If God calls you anything other than that, that's not God. That's the enemy. You are accepted. He loves you. He has a plan for your life. And listen, we cannot identify ourselves with our mistakes. Now, listen, I had to fess up. I had to fess up to my bad decisions. I don't want to say mistakes. I take that back, because mistakes is watering it down. I made bad choices because I knew what I was doing.
All right.
But the same way I knew I made bad choices, I can make the right ones. And that's giving God my full yes. I'm talking about completely. Here I am, Lord, use me. And then he spoke to me, man. He spoke to me October 12th. I'll never forget this day. This is when I heard Reach One. So I still have the same bad tendencies as a student, not going to lie.
Okay, all right.
So, I'm in class. I'm not paying attention. I'm like, literally, I fell in love with the word. Right, so like, how am I gonna get in trouble for reading the Bible? Like, what kind of teacher? This is a faith-based program, so I'm literally reading Luke 15. And as I'm reading Luke 15, when I said the presence of God like entered my space, It was like August 3rd all over again. I just began to weep. And I'm reading the story of the lost sheep. And I heard the Lord speak to me. He says, Marcus, I left the 99 for you. He told me, never make ministry about numbers. Every person has infinite value to him. I've given you the ministry of reconciliation. And that's when I heard Reach One. It stands for reconciling every abandoned child home. He said, go win my children. Up to that point, I do no speaking. I'm like, when the Lord speaks,
he really speaks to people? I've heard about this.
I was like, yes, sir. And then I just began to speak life to every person I saw. I'm like, yo, y'all ready to give hell a hard time today? Like anybody from the program knows how I was. Like, y'all ready to give hell a hard time? And that's what that's what it looks like to be completely surrendered in my case.
Yeah.
I was surrendered to what he wanted me to do. And all this is in the midst of rehab. I'm literally in rehab. It's crazy how, remember, God always tells you who you are. October 4th, you're accepted and beloved. October 12th, go win my children. It never comes before because God doesn't care about your doing. He doesn't care what you try to build. One of my spiritual father told me he would come and visit me, Pastor Whiteside. He's like, son, it doesn't matter what you do. It's all about who you are, and you're a son. And I live like that every single day of my life.
Marcus, your story is just beyond moving. The audience, those that are watching, are just clapping and praising and chiming in, and everybody's so excited about it. And I know there's even more on. They may not be typing it in the comments, and I know they're being moved. Somebody out there is wiping tears away. Somebody out there is encouraged. Somebody out there, I know others that have told me, someone recently told me that your story has helped them overcome. That your testimony is a reason that they're better today. And that's what it's all about. What I'd like to do now is I want to share a clip from Reach One, the organization that you created. And when we come back from that, I just want to take a few minutes for Q&A to allow anybody who has any questions to ask their questions. If you have questions, you can start putting your questions into the comment section, and we will get to some comments and some questions here today. But first, I'd like to share a little video clip from Marcus from Reach One that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. And it just shows you a little bit about what he does to impact lives.
My name is Markus McFolling. I'm the founder and CEO of Reach One, which is an acronym. It stands for Reconciling Every Abandoned Child Home. It's an outreach youth ministry where I travel and I speak with the goal of inspiring a generation of world changers to live a life of purpose and destiny.
I see an amazing young man. I see somebody that can change the world if they want to and they believe in themselves. What's your name? Brendan. What do you want to do with your life, man? You want to be successful, and you will be, man.
So school and organization, what they can expect if they book me to come and speak. 1, I'm going to be passionate. 2, I'm going to inspire your students. 3, I'm going to find the kid in your school that thinks the lowest of themselves to see themselves as good enough, to see themselves as beautiful, to see themselves as smart, and to see themselves as somebody that can be an overcomer. I believe that there's this absenteeism in the home where kids aren't getting the love that they need. They're not hearing the words of affirmation. I love to speak life, and I think that I'm needed because they say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, that's a lie. Words hurt. But the same way that words hurt, words can make you feel good, and they can inspire you to live a different life right where you're at. And that's what I'm all about, is speaking life and inspiring every single student that I see. So if you're interested in having me at your school or your organization, you can go to our website, reachoneinc.com. There's a book now form. You can see student testimonials. You can see recommendations from just different principals, different community leaders. And you can fill the form out. We will get there as soon as possible. We'll get it on our schedule. We'll come in and we'll inspire your students.
This is excellent piece.
Appreciate that, man.
Absolutely. And we're excited. And there are people are just saying how inspired they are by this. Ladies and gentlemen, we have about 10 minutes left. We want to take a few questions from you guys. I want this show to be something that you guys can count on. We've tried different formats, and I'd like us to have the bulk of our time be within an hour. Now, we may go a little bit over, but I want to make sure no one feels that they've missed something, a part of the core message. Marcus has shared his story here today, his testimony, how he's overcome. I think you guys can see his passion. I hope that if you guys want more of Marcus, that you guys will follow him beyond today, beyond this moment. That he's on YouTube, he's on Instagram, he's on Facebook. Go to reach1.com and check him out there. Reach1inc.com. Go there and check him out there so that you guys can be a part of the movement, because he's serious about impacting lives locally in the Ohio, Northeast Ohio area, but also nationally. I know he has a vision to impact our entire country. We have a question here from a lady that I think you know again. Her name is Chelsea Bryant McFolling.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you guys have the same address or not, but whatever. She said, I hear you have a documentary coming out. Will this be available to the public? How can I watch it?
Absolutely. So we've had a documentary shot on my life and our story of Reach One, me and my wife. So we had it planned for March, but clearly the coronavirus happened. So we're getting ready to push it probably to the summertime. So right now it's hitting the festival circuit, and we actually just got nominated as a finalist for a big festival in Michigan. So it's just an amazing piece that it tells the story of Reach One. It basically puts visuals to everything I just kind of said, and it shows how it impacted my wife, and then it casts a vision and it shows the bigger picture of Reach One. That will come out in June, so stay tuned. We'll be updating it, and actually we have somebody that'll be our special guest there, my man Lucas. So
Hey.
We're looking forward to doing that. So we will definitely keep you guys in the loop about that.
Awesome. Another question, Damon Thomas, my big cuz, he said, "What have you changed despite of the pandemic? How can you still reach? How do you still reach
Come
one
on, absolutely.
when everybody's quarantined and locked down?" That's a good question.
There it is. Thank you for that question, Mr. Thomas. So for me, I am a extrovert to the core. I'm all about creating space and giving people a platform to speak. So one thing that I've done intentionally is we've reached out. We have a group of people that my wife and I get a chance to hang out with and do life with, but we've also created space for students and created space for Bible studies on Thursdays. So Mondays, I have this thing where I do, it's called Mindset Mondays, where I literally get on Facebook Live and I just talk about our mindsets, having the right mindset for Monday, how to think, no, don't live for the weekend, live for every day. And then on Wednesdays, my wife and I, we interview somebody where they have a life-changing testimony, kind of like mine. So or tomorrow we get to interview a young lady who is amazing. She was diagnosed with cancer at 24 years old.
Wow.
And how is that? What's happened in her life? And then on Thursdays we have a Zoom Bible study where we get in the Word, and it's open to anyone. Like I'm a people person. I don't care what you like, your beliefs. Like we want you to feel welcome, to feel loved, to feel accepted. We're relational. Like if I meet you in person, chances are I'm going to pursue you. I'm going to get your number, and you're going to hear from me. So we definitely are utilizing social media.
Awesome. You guys, again, make sure you follow him at reach1inc.com, reach1inc.com. Sarah Ray said she's the MVP. Talking about your wife, she's the real MVP.
Hey, come on. Hey, listen, there's some, and I want to speak into that a little bit. I think it's easy for a lot of us to see how I've overcome addiction because that was the big headliner, right? But what about the story of the wife that stuck by my side, that was forced into being a single mom, that had her own issues about the pain that I caused her? And that's why it's important for everybody to see the documentary. But more than anything, Reach One, my wife and I are doing it together. We're co-leaders in it. And her heart burns for young ladies, especially women who've been in domestic violence. And we want to be able to help cast vision that's a lot bigger than just ourselves. And we want to impact as many people as we can. We really want to reach that one. So yeah, she definitely is the real MVP. That's
so
for sure.
Great. That's so great. I love it. I don't see any other questions here in the comments. If there's anybody else with a question, we still have a few more minutes. But Marcus, as we continue in our last few minutes, if there's something you could tell somebody watching, like,
Yeah.
if this is we're coming to the end, say they just tuned in and they're like,
Hmm.
I missed it, I didn't see
Yeah.
everything. Um, quickly,
Yeah.
what would you tell someone?
Here's what I would tell them. If you're struggling right now, I want you to take a deep breath. Take one more. The very fact that you have breath in your lungs means there's still purpose for your life. It's so important to remember that God has a plan for your life. And look, I don't want to be preachy, I don't want to be churchy, but your life matters. Your voice matters. Your dreams matter. And I believe in you. And I don't say that just to say, oh, hey, I believe in the thing that you want to do. I believe in who God has created you to be. I'm all about seeing the gold in somebody and pulling it out. And if you are struggling in active addiction, there's help. Like, there legitimately is help. Like, look at my life. Let my life be the testimony that helps you turn yourself over to something that's higher than yourself, because we were never created to fix ourselves. Hear me when I say that you weren't created to fix you. We were created to be surrendered to God and Jesus and invite him in. And I promise you, it changes everything.
Thank you so much. That is
Absolutely, man.
awesome. That is amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope today that you guys got something out of what was shared. He truly shared his heart. I think it's important for you guys to recognize that there are men out there who can be vulnerable and be open. I
Oh, yeah.
think that's
I
an
always say this,
important
man, since the
narrative.
beginning of time, tears have been a sign of life, not a sign of weakness. Psalms
Absolutely.
126:5 says, those who sow in tears shall reap in joy.
Yes,
I'm full of
yes,
it.
absolutely. I think you pointed out some great things about the greenhouse, about the perfect conditions.
Yeah,
While the situation was imperfect, while your life has been imperfect, it was the perfect situation for God to show up as God
come on.
and to bring something out. I grew up as a fan of the great Tupac Shakur, who talked about a rose growing through the concrete.
Come on.
And
That's good.
that's powerful to think
Yeah,
that something beautiful could grow out of something broken, out of something so hard and something so tough. And I see that in your life, that you came up out of a horrible situation where so many people would not have made it. And because you put your hand in the hand of God,
yeah,
he pulled you out. And
come
now
on.
you took your hand and you're still holding on to God's hand, and now you're reaching out
Yeah, man.
and pulling
Come
somebody
on.
else up. And I think that's the message that we all need to receive today.
Absolutely. And I
Man.
just, last thing I want to say, man, is one of my favorite quotes that I live by is by C.S. Lewis. I may not be able to go in the past and change a thing, but at any moment I can make a decision that'll change my future. You can make that decision right now. Your future can look so different. It just starts with a simple yes.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. People are really excited. They're clapping. They're saying thank you. They're sending flowers. Again, to our audience, thank you guys so much for being here on Lucas Tyndale Live. You guys continue to follow the movement. Go follow Marcus. Don't you? If your kids are in school, you want him at your kid's school. So when these schools get back in, you need to go to your school administration and say, we need Markus McFolling in our school. We need him to come to an assembly. We need him to talk to our students. We need our students to see somebody be vulnerable and transparent. We need our boys to see a man stand and show that men can open up and share and struggle and overcome their struggles. To your churches that are looking to bring somebody in and
Mm-hmm.
make a dynamic impact. He got to speak at Love is Red at Faith Family Church just a few months ago before this pandemic took over. We had a great opportunity to make a great impact, and so many lives were changed because of this man right here. We're so blessed to have you on the show today, Marcus. I can't thank you enough, and I just hope that you'd be willing to come back
Man,
and be a guest here
listen,
again.
it's an honor. It's an absolute honor. You're somebody that has inspired me, and I love what you're doing. Continue to keep pioneering, man, because what you're doing is you're creating space for voices to be heard and for
Thank you.
testimonies to be. It's amazing, man. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys again tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We'll have our guest, Steve Beatty.
Big
Chef
Steve,
Steve
that's
Beatty.
my
He's going to
dude.
be on. And Marcus,
Hey,
you're a cooking guy too.
listen, in 2011, when I went back to Malone to get a job,
Uh
Steve
huh.
hired me. Like, that's my dude.
I
I'll
did
be
not know
here. Yep,
that.
that's my dude, man. Steve's the man.
Steve is going to be on. He's going to do a live cooking
Oh
show.
yeah.
And Marcus again is a chef as well. We might have you on do a
Oh
little
yeah.
cooking one day.
I'm not on Steve's level
You're
yet,
not
but
on Steve's level, but we'll have
I'm
you
on my
on.
way.
Yes, I'm looking forward to having Marcus back, him and his wife as well. We're going to talk
Absolutely.
about some couples things, relationship, how they overcame him, how she was that strength that he needed. We're going to get into that story. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I put out a call for anyone who knows some single men. I'm going to be looking for single ladies too, but single ladies are always willing to participate, and I'm excited to call on you too. But I talked to Marcus about it. He said he knows some single men.
Oh,
So
yeah,
if you
come
know
on.
Marcus and you're single, he's coming for you.
I sure
We're
am.
looking for single men because we want to have a forum. We want to have a discussion on Lucas Tyndale Live where we allow single ladies to chime in and ask questions of single men, things they've always wanted to know. Is there a fear of commitment? What are you worried about? Why are men slower to get married? What's going on with your view of a single mother? We want to be able to ask those questions of men. And while every man on the panel, every man that comes along may have a slightly different opinion, it's going to give us a wealth of knowledge that I think will be helpful to so many people out there. So we're really excited to put that show on. Please stay tuned. Please reach out to the men in your life. If the women tap the men in their lives, that's what's going to bring the men out. So tap your brother, tap your cousin, tap your male friend, and say, hey, reach out to Lucas. Tell him you're willing to be on the show because they need more guys. And if each lady would do that for her sister, for her girl out there that's single, you invite your men friends and cousins and family, and she does it, you guys will all open up an opportunity for you guys to meet some great guys out here. And one day, we're going to play the Love Connection here on Lucas Tyndale Live. Thank you guys so much.
One last thing.
Yes.
There's that beautiful little girl.
That beautiful little girl. It was
And
all
now
for
we
her.
now we got two of them. Come on, somebody. Y'all
Now you got two running around, having a good time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Marcus. You are an
Appreciate you.
amazing guest. Can't wait to have you back on the show. Everybody else, I'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. when we see my good friend, Chef Steve Beatty. Everybody have a great night.